Happy birthday to me. How's everybody out there doing today? Gonna take a little time here, get myself situated. Yeah, there we go. A little bit of background going on. So, it's my birthday today. We are less than 30 days out from the election. Out doing job interviews, having all of that fun things going on. Working on issues all over the place. Got an interesting email today. An individual come in, talk to me, sent me an email. They're worried about my position on medical marijuana. Now, it's an interesting one to go ahead and get involved in. Reason why is because, my position on medical marijuana. It's something we need to make happen for a number of different reasons. We got people all over the place that need it. They use it. It's an essential part of their ability to be a functioning member of society, whether it's regards to work, a number of other things. Now, there's a process, there's a progression with regards to an awful lot of these things. Awful lot of people out there don't agree with it becoming legal immediately because they understand that the second it becomes legal, there's a risk of abuse that continues to be a problem. And admittedly, it is a significant problem when you expose people to something new and it's fresh. And we see it all the time in the state of Idaho. We see people traveling across the border, across to Washington, Montana, Oregon, all of these visitings that they do specifically to go over and get, what they need in order to be functioning members of society here in the United States. We agree. It's a problem. The thing is right now, that medical marijuana represents a capacity. It's a capability. Most people who use it say that it is the only thing they have found. And this is after years of going through therapy, years of various psychoactive drugs that have been prescribed by various doctors, psychologists, etc. Years of this. And finally, they get access to medical grade marijuana and they go, this does for me what all of these other pharmaceuticals have failed to do. Okay? That's one of the reasons why the medical marijuana, at a minimum, is so important to me as an activist, as a candidate. I want to see people have access to that again. Like they did back before Nixon, made it major taboo. But that's where I'm at with it. And I understand an awful lot of other people aren't quite ready to see it hit the market. Number of individuals right now, and this particular individual was up from Kootenai County, so she sees an awful lot of that travel that goes across the state line over into Washington to pick up their supplies. They drive to Spokane. You'll see Idaho license plates sitting in dispensary parking lots in Spokane all the time. Pick up their stuff, turn around, drive right back across the border. Everybody in Idaho is smoking it already. 37 states have marijuana at least legalized in some capacity, whether it's medical or recreational. 37 number continues to go up. It's time we at least get that off of the Schedule I list at the federal level. And really, that's one of the biggest problems we have right now with marketing, selling, and making sure that medical marijuana is available to those people who need it, is the fact that it continues to exist on the Schedule I list at the federal level. As long as it's there, It affects our ability to market it, sell it, and a number of other issues. This is something we don't need to do at this point. The United States is ready for it. 37 states are ready for it to come off of the Schedule 1. All we need are some people in Congress who are willing to make it happen. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for. Get marijuana off of the Schedule 1, off of the Substance Control Act, and boom, we have access to medical marijuana across the entirety of the United States. It can be sold, it can be controlled, it can be distributed by pharmacists. Yes. We could actually sell it from pharmacies. We wouldn't have to create dispensaries. We could sell it from pharmacies as medicine if we just get it off the Schedule 1 list. Get it down to Schedule 2. Get it down to Schedule 3. I mean, we sell morphine out of, we sell Oxycontin. We sell an ungodly number of opiates out of pharmacies these days. Why is opium a Schedule 2? And why can we sell it out of pharmacies while marijuana is still Schedule 1 and we can't? Legal in 37 states for medicinal and or recreational purposes. Please, folks, it's time. Now, what else are you guys interested in? Now, I see people out there like, love, share, please comment. Let your friends know about me. We just had a couple articles come out recently. Idaho Dispatch released their articles, their surveys. Who else did survey releases? We got who else? I got to go through and take a look because we just got some good things come up. For those of you who aren't familiar, 2 more days, we got the Idaho Public Television. It's already been recorded, so that's just waiting for that to happen. They're going to air it on Friday. Tomorrow we got live broadcasts coming from Idaho Press, released their candidate surveys. So I'm going to go ahead and share you the link to the Idaho Press. For those of you who are interested, and create a new banner here. We're going to set it up. We're going to scroll across the bottom. Take a look at what we got here, folks. Idaho Press, news, elections, candidate surveys, Idaho congressional candidates. Yes, that's me, that's Rudy, that's Russ. You actually got to read what it is we wrote down. And it's not just us. They also have questions from the Senate campaigns. Natalie Fleming up there, Paulette Jordan, Senator Risch, they've all submitted their answers. Over in Congressional District 2, you got Right to Life, he's running. You got Idaho Law, he's running as well. You got Aaron Swisher and Mike Simpson. They're both running over in Congressional District 2. You know, I don't know how many of you from Congressional District 2 are watching this, but constitutionalist. Actually, I went ahead and put my name in over there. That said, Right to Life is a perpetual candidate. He's run in almost every campaign for the last 20 years, as far as I know. Guy's old as dirt. Yeah, but his answers are in the Idaho Press. Go ahead and take a look, see what they got there. They provided answers. Idaho Dispatch has provided. You know, there is no reason No reason whatsoever anyone should be able to claim they didn't know. We've all answered surveys. We've all participated in one debate or another. You got me talking to you right now. Ask a question, please. Any question. We'll discuss it. And I'll explain why some of my views are particularly important to me, and whether or not we can find a common ground, some meeting ground. You know, me, I don't believe we should be sending people to prison for marijuana. A lot of you think, well, maybe there's some reasons we should be sending them to prison for marijuana. Still have trouble imagining what they are, but maybe you can come up with a good argument for me. I don't believe we should be sending people to prison for marijuana. As a result, I think it should be legalized or decriminalized or something else. But we definitely need to get it off of Schedule 1. Now, other issues. Okay. So I got a friend, and you're out there. I know you're out there. You're watching. You're paying attention to what's going on. So Russ Fulcher, we've had one now debate, and it's been canceled. Now, the funny thing about it being canceled was I wasn't invited to the debate. Yours truly, I wasn't invited to an actual debate. Now, every one of the town hall, every one of the debates so far hasn't actually been a debate. Tomorrow we should be doing good. The Coeur d'Alene is set up for remote, so we'll be able to go in. We'll be able to do the debate that way. But everybody's set up for remote. All of the others to date have been individually recorded. So, like, I couldn't make a comment about Russ Fulcher's position on a given issue or on Rudy Soto's position on a given issue. Neither one of them could make comments on my position, and give me an opportunity for a rebuttal on those because of the format that they chose for these town halls. Now, these are good town halls. They get the information out. Taxed. Who's getting taxed? Thank you, David. I appreciate it. Definitely happy birthday. Marijuana. Absolutely. Right now, all of that tax money for medical marijuana sales, that's going to Washington, Oregon, Montana, and even Utah. Even Nevada. You drive right across the border from the state of Idaho, you see Idaho license plates in every dispensary. All that tax money is going to some other state. Now, I get it. That's what Idaho does. We give tax breaks to big companies with headquarters in other states so that all the money they make not paying taxes in the state of Idaho goes straight back to those other states. So losing out on all of the tax revenue from medical marijuana, that's not unusual for Idaho legislators to let happen. No, it's not. Idaho legislators like getting paid to let revenue and income leave the state. Yes, they do. Think about what sort of tax breaks Walmart got when they came in. All those taxes, all that revenue, all that income, it's going back to Arkansas. Think about all those tax breaks they got when Amazon put in that brand new, and Jeff Bezos is making all the money off of that profit. So, yes, Jason, doesn't legalization mean more regulation and oversight? Absolutely, it does. If you actually have it, it's more than tax, it's savings. It's keeping the money in the economy local. It's keeping the money here. But as far as the legalization, regulation, oversight, absolutely. The second we legalize it, depending on which stage we go in, there's already more oversight that goes into it. The fact that you would be allowed to distribute it through a pharmacy. All pharmacies run quality control, just like the dispensaries do in all of the other states. There is quality control issues with it. You know, there's samplings from the distribution comes out. They determine content, they determine value, how it was grown, whether it was raised, whether or not there's a consistency in the product that was purchased to justify specific labels. Now, admittedly, it's a plant. Okay. No plants grow consistently, but there are ways to go in and do sampling. There's ways to go in and do quality control. As a result of the quality control, it is still more consistent, than going to your neighborhood dealer who let his pot go to pot and all you're getting is seeds that day. Nobody likes having those seeds pop while they're trying to smoke that stuff. Actually being able to get real high quality bud to relieve the symptoms of whatever it is you need dealt with. It goes through a quality control process, a much better quality control process than anything you've ever with a street vendor. You don't have to worry about it being laced with LSD or meth, right? Absolutely, it's a natural medicine. We should be able to sell it, whether we sell it at a natural apothecary with a licensed dispensary or a licensed pharmacist. Now, I think this is interesting. One of the regulations when they legalized medical marijuana in Utah, okay, they decided that they had to have a pharmacist on staff at every dispensary. The irony of this is as long as marijuana is on the Schedule 1 of the Substance Control Act, a pharmacist can't actually sell marijuana without risking losing their pharmaceutical certifications. That's how Salt Lake got around legalizing. They're legal, but they're still not selling it because they created laws that were conflicting. We just can't do that. So we need to make the next step. We need to make the next move and look at what options we got with that. But yeah, there will be more control. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the drawback of that. Reason why is because California still has a serious black market problem with it. Getting into that right now, Jason. Legalization meaning more crime. Okay, part of the problem is California has a higher black market, still has a strong black market with relationship to marijuana. Reason why is because the taxes have increased the cost of the marijuana that even the original street dealer prices and if equality, substandard quality is still preferable for an awful lot of people than paying the full price of medical marijuana plus tax. Just happens to be the case. So as a result, we still have black market, which is why exactly the taxes are too high. Okay. Now, who remembers the Boston Tea Party? Yeah, we went and threw a bunch of tea overboard. It was owned by a tea corporation. A reason why was because the taxes on the tea were too high. And it was interfering with the black market tea market. that resulted because of the high taxes. Don't overtax it, man. Don't overtax it. We've had states that have had successful efforts to reduce the marijuana black market. They've kept the taxes on the medical marijuana low, so you weren't still dealing with a continuation of black market crime. Okay. Brian, my genius son. How would people like me get an education if education was privatized? Considering I'm operating almost exclusively off of government grants. That's an interesting situation. Okay, now let's go ahead and go into a little bit of background here on Brian, my genius child. Brian is currently attending the Maine Mathematics and Science Institute. This is a private boarding school operating in northern Maine up along the Canadian border. Hey, this is a feeder school for certain tech schools, MIT, similar schools like that. It is a private school. Okay, now, my son's education is funded almost entirely by grants because I don't make enough to actually pay the tuition for this particular private school. So if we were to go through and actually privatize all education, and that includes taking things like the Department of Education and removing their ability to affect these local grants. Okay, so MMSI is a public school. Okay, my bad. I honestly thought it was a private school. Regardless, public school, private school, it's a boarding school, and it's operating on grants. Now, because of the quality of, because of the requirements that they actually have, these are high-end requirements in order to actually get into this school. Brian at 13 took the ACTs, scored high enough that the school took time and helped make sure that he got the grants and the scholarships necessary in order to attend the school so that poor people like myself and his mother didn't actually have to pay the bill that is associated with the tuition fees for an awful lot of the other students that are currently attending with him. So, if you privatize that, how do you incentivize making sure that exceptional students like Brian, okay, so it's MSSM, Maine School of Science and Math. Did they just change? Okay, Maine School of Science and Mathematics. Awesome school, by the way. Last 2 semesters he spent in there, he picked up 32 college credits. It's a full college load, man. So awesome school. Does a lot of good things, but it continues to operate on grants. Most of these grants are coming from organizations like the Department of Education at the federal level. Some of these grants are also facilitated by the Maine state government. You know, his ability to attend is dependent upon his continued residency in the state of Maine, his mother's continued residency in the state of Maine. Since I'm in Idaho, I can't actually help with that particular qualification requirement. But how do you make sure that exceptional students continue to be able to attend these exceptional schools despite the fact that their parents can't afford tuition? Well, one is we focus on scholarships. Okay, the alumni in the schools like to have the scholarships. Now, Brian gets to attend because when he took his ACTs at 13, he scored 80% on math and 80% on science for college-bound Maine seniors, which again is one of the reasons why he was able to knock out 32 college credits, his first semester in high school. God, I love you, Brian. You're brilliant. But essentially he's there on a full ride scholarship. Now, the scholarship was made available by public grants, but there are an awful lot of foundations out there that regularly offer scholarships for students of the quality of that caliber. So you'd be looking at scholarship programs, being able to go in, do the applications, and as Brian will attest to, the Maine School of Science and Mathematics has a rather rigorous admission process, including interviews, including taking the ACTs, number of other things, certifications, requirements in order to get into the school. So, which are a lot of the exact same things that most scholarships require when you apply for a scholarship. So, private schools would become the norm if we were to do away with public education, which ultimately is the question, if all education was privatized. Now, in the state of Idaho, that really isn't a problem because public education is part of the state of Idaho's constitution. Okay, the Constitution of the state of Idaho has a requirement that the state fund public education for the entirety of the state. At the federal level, I wouldn't be interested in doing that. The thing is schools like Maine School of Science and Mathematics existed prior to the Department of Education at the federal level. They were facilitated by scholarships, networking, legacy families, booster programs. I mean, every public school has its boosters. Let's go ahead and discuss a big one, Emmett, especially since it's in the news recently. Okay, Emmett's always had an exceptional football program for the size of school that they have up there. The booster program up at Emmett, if it were to be privatized, believe me, the Emmett alumni would make sure that all of those farm boys up in Emmett that could qualify for the football team would continue to be able to go to school there. But that's Emmett. Okay. Here in Boise, we got Bishop Kelly. Bishop Kelly's is a private school. But yeah, Brian, I definitely think that we would see a change in the business models for schools. And one of the problems you remember growing up when you were in grade school back in Solon was you had teachers who were constantly pestering you about getting you into special needs. Okay. Not special qualified education, but trying to get you into special needs because, yeah, reasons. You know it. I know it. There are teachers that actually go out and seek additional funding for the school by looking for students that they can get certified as special needs for the school. How would you like to show up at that parent-teachers conference and have the teacher tell you that your kid's special needs when you know he isn't, but they still want to run them through the battery of tests in order to get them certified so that the school can get extra funds? Especially considering that certification also comes with mandatory medication, which your child probably doesn't need. Right, Brian? Man, you're where you're at without any medication. Okay, let's move on. Jason, military service be compulsory. This is an interesting one. Reason why is because the last time we had compulsory military service was the Vietnam War. And most Vietnam veterans, especially those who were professional soldiers before they started the draft, understand that the draft is probably one of the worst ways in order to get people into the service. You end up with a wide variety of individuals who are not prepared for the shock, the trauma, the drama of military service. So, no, I don't think military service should be compulsory. Matter of fact, I think if we were to ever reach a position where we had to resort to the draft again, not that we'd ever need to, reason why is because if we can find a good reason to go to war, we always got plenty of volunteers ready to step up to go over to some strange country and kill strangers. By the way, as a veteran, I don't advise that, guys. I really don't. There's things that come with that affect your humanity. Israel's would work if they weren't currently using it to occupy Palestine. Okay, if you had a system like Germany, okay, perfect example, South Korea. Okay, South Korea has mandatory 2-year service. Okay. South Korea, as a general rule, does not deploy combat troops in support of any of our operations. That said, they did run a nice hospital in Kabul, or not in Kabul, in Bagram Airfield, Afghanistan, for a period of time. Yeah, so the South Korean army actually ran a military hospital in Afghanistan. Top notch, good quality, no complaints whatsoever. Good stuff. But if we're looking at a mandatory service arrangement like that, where literally you're in the equivalent of the National Guard, you will never leave a stateside deployment unless you volunteer to pick up one of those positions, because you signed up to defend South Korea. South Korea has a very real enemy in North Korea. So there is always that constant threat. But you don't actually invade North Korea. So you're at home. You're less than an hour away from family, no matter where in South Korea you get stationed. I think if we were to do something more along the lines of, like, say, mandatory National Guard. Okay. Maybe. Okay. There's an awful lot of people of a particular libertarian mindset that says compulsory service is slavery. And being forced to serve in the military is a violation. So, yeah, there's a couple things. I believe if we were to go with compulsory, that would be the default. So that's another question. The default choice. The default choice. What is the default choice? Okay. Now, right now, the default choice is you don't serve. You have to actively volunteer to serve in the military or with certain other organizations like the Peace Corps, Job Corps, various other organizations like that. You have to choose. Okay, so the default is you don't serve. You have to choose. Whereas with compulsory service, the default is you're going to serve. You have to actively try to get out of service. So, military service is not for everybody. I'm not a big fan of compulsory. What type of uprising would we see if we tied gun control to service, like Switzerland? Dude, that's a good question. One of the problems we have right now with an awful lot of individuals. Okay. Not control, ownership. Subtle difference. It's a very subtle difference, and it's lost on a lot of people. It really is. But the ground rule is the First Amendment was specifically written with the intent that you could literally draft anybody at any time, and they'd be qualified on their weapon of choice to defend whatever it is, the governor of the state decided you needed to defend. And that was the original reason for the First Amendment. Second Amendment. Second Amendment. Okay. Now, was it used in some very bad ways? Oh, yes. Oh, yes, it was. Reason why is because the governors in the southern states during the first 80 years decided to use the Second Amendment to deputize random individuals to chase down runaway slaves. Yeah, we use the Second Amendment to support human rights violations. We don't do that anymore. At least I hope we don't. No, yeah, we do. Of course, some of you guys have listened to me talk about the 13th Amendment. We still deputize people, Vice cops. Vice cops. Yeah, I'm going to slam on vice cops. Vice cops are the modern day slave catchers. Right? Am I right? 13th Amendment. Send them out. Bust somebody who's doing drugs. Well, if they're doing drugs, they're not violent. That's how you get them into prison, and then you turn them into trustees, and then you let them out to work on the farm or in the slaughterhouse for significantly reduced wages. Yes, vice cops are modern day slave catchers. Change my mind. Please. Yeah. But yeah, if we were to tie gun ownership to service like Switzerland does, we're sort of running backwards with the way the Second Amendment was written. And the Second Amendment was written basically to bring in the levies. The reason why is because they were still working on the whole nobility, the feudalism aspects of what was going on with England and France at the time, and the whole concept of, drafting the levies, recruiting the levies, was that you had a ready and prepared pool of people who already understood how to use their weapons. Do we need that in modern America? Probably not. Still, I think it's a good basis. Reason why is because it also facilitates an awful lot of other options an awful lot of people really don't think about. Okay, one is, and I know some people are really going to hate me for this one, but Marx. Marx was a huge proponent of the Second Amendment. He believed the working class needed to be armed. Armed and dangerous. Marx, yes, of all the people, right? Armed and dangerous. The working class needed to be armed and dangerous. In case any capitalists decided that they deserved access to the rightful fruit of the labors of the working class. It's interesting. A lot of you guys out there, you pay attention to what goes on with politics. There's an awful lot of ANCAPs out there, anarcho-capitalists, Yep. Arm the proletariat. Arm the proletariat. It was a Marx chant. Absolutely. The thing is that's modern America. Don't lie to yourself. Right now, we probably have the best armed working class. I mean, arm the serfs. I think no. It wasn't arm the serfs. It was arm the proletariat. Reason why is because if you take a look at what Lenin and Mao did to the serfs, and by serfs we mean agricultural workers, agricultural labor. You take a look at what Mao and Lenin did in the name of Marx to the agricultural labor of their era. Don't get me wrong. I personally think the serfs should be as well armed as the proletariat, especially after what Lenin and Mao did. But right now, the United States of America probably has one of the best armed proletariats in the world ever. And literally, we have working class Americans that are armed to the teeth, an average of 3 to 4 guns apiece. We have the best armed proletariat. We have that ready recruiting for the defense of the nation. As we talked about a number of times with regards to why didn't the Japanese invade America? Because in 1945, behind every blade of grass were 2 American hunters with a 30-06. Yeah. And it wasn't just the men who had guns. It wasn't just the men. Lots of women during that era were also hunters as well. The only reason they buy into it, Jason, is because they don't understand that it was a Marxist idea. I mean, really, if you stop and think about it, and that's another lie I don't understand. America has been a socialist country for over 100 years. It has. Changed my mind. 1918, the first income tax in order to pay for the war. We've had the Federal Reserve. Before we finished paying for World War I, we ended up getting involved and started paying for World War II. We haven't lost the income tax since World War II. We've been paying for socialist programs. And of course, we all know FDR was as socialist as you get. Tennessee Valley Authority, building some of the most Morrison Knudsen government grants, government funding to pay some of the largest hydro dams in the United States. Yeah. We're a republic. Yeah, we're a socialist republic. Yeah. But see, that's one of those things. Socialism is an addiction. Right now, we're in denial. We are in denial that America has a problem with socialism. It has a problem with Keynesianism. We have a problem. Oh, yeah. Our Magic Valley, product of socialism. The Treasure Valley wouldn't exist if it wasn't for federal troops. Federal troops paid for by federal taxes. Then we won't even get into the issues because, Treasure Valley, Morrison Knudsen, one of the big ones, big businesses back in the day. Clear up to the 70s, clear up into the 80s. That money was brought in by government contracts. Boise Cascade, government contracts. The train manufacturing that was here before Morrison Knudsen bought it and wrecked it, government contracts. And Georgia Pacific, government grants through Teddy Roosevelt with the age railroads. You know, I mean, honestly, you can probably even go back before 1918, before 1920, and find socialist aspects about the way the federal government was running things. You know, but the thing is, the United States of America is a socialist country. If you really sit down and break it down, you cannot deny it. The way we've been running on a central planning committee via Keynesian economics, for those of you, yeah, it's going to be a long conversation that I don't have much time for here anymore. Yeah, but yeah, we're still a republic. We're still a constitutional republic. But if you actually break down the amount of taxes, the amount of revenue that is pulled out of, you know, the economy in order to pay for government ideas at this point in America's progression, and we're no longer dabbling in socialism like we were back in 1918 and 1930. Okay, we are long past dabbling. We are now in late stage addiction to socialism in the United States. They've done a pretty good job of making sure that we aren't aware of it. Matter of fact, we got people who will show up waving flags every Friday or every Saturday, driving around downtown Boise with their Ford F-150s and their Toyota Tacomas and some of the biggest damn gas guzzling trucks ever, saying that we're still a republic. Now, that's our very well-armed proletariat that still believes we're a republic and not a socialist country. So let's talk about freedom. How do we wean ourselves off of our addiction to socialism? Damn good question, folks. It's a damn good question. Thing is right now there's plutocracy out there. There's an oligarchy, a kleptocracy, whatever it is you want to call it, that are very comfortable with the control that they exert over U.S. economics and U.S. politics. And this is plutocratic socialism. It's a big word. How many syllables do we got? Plutocratic socialism. Ooh, we're up to 8 syllables for that one. Plutocratic socialism. That's essentially what we're dealing with in the United States right now. And we got plutocrats. Yes, yes, I am running to be a plutocrat. Sue me. Oh yeah, with some totalitarianism thrown in for good measure. Doesn't totalitarianism always come with a little bit of plutocracy, come with a little bit of socialism? I mean, it's a little hard to enforce socialism without some totalitarianism. Yeah, it's a little hard to enforce rabid state capitalism without some kind of totalitarianism. How many people pay $2,000 a year in order to maintain their certification for the business licenses? Yes, I'm talking estheticians, beauticians, people who are running beauty salons, electricians, in order to maintain your state certification. Not even your union cert, but your state certification. Now, if you're working for a good union, sir, your union will go ahead and certify you free of charge. But no, the state wants you to pay to get certified with them. Okay, how many of you are paying in order to maintain certification? How many? I mean, yeah, true, you're writing that off as a business expense. But yeah. No, some totalitarianism absolutely thrown in with good old-fashioned American socialism / state capitalism, however you want to phrase it. Thing is it has been so long since we have had a free market in America. If we've ever had a free market in America. A significant amount of Americans simply wouldn't know what to do with it. Man, could you imagine actually being able to go down to the farmer's market where the prices didn't have to be marked up in order to be certified to sell at the farmer's market? Or the losses that are associated with their agricultural contracts with a number of organizations. And it's been a long time, a long, long time since we've really been able to enjoy a free market. And even those of you who grew up in Boise, grew up in Idaho. Okay, how many remember when Joe Albertson had a monopoly on grocery stores in the Treasure Valley? Right? Joe Albertson's negotiated a monopoly. He managed to push Smith Food King and Safeway out of the Treasure Valley. Dude, that wasn't free market. That was political favoritism, straight up. Now, that said, all the profits from Joe Albertson's market stayed in Idaho. Whereas if you shopped at Safeway or Smith Food King, all the profits went somewhere else, which is sort of what the problem is right now. Albertsons went public, and now a lot of the profits are leaving the state, and which is why I shop at Winco. Yes, I do. I shop at Winco. Reason why is because that's employee owned. It's an Idaho-based company. Prices are low, and the profits stay here in the state of Idaho. Profits go with the labor. Good stuff. Yeah. Zor 50, Jason, thank you for the questions today. All good questions, all awesome questions. But let's go ahead and get back, because I think I sort of wandered off. I think an awful lot of Americans, especially with regards to the way we're dealing with the totalitarian aspect of what's happening in America with American socialism / Capcom, or capitalist communism, capitalist socialism, socialist capitalism. Anyway, yeah, Keynes can suck it. FDR can suck it. Now, what they've done to the American economy. Okay, Safeway was Utah. That would explain it. Wouldn't surprise me, because that would have been early 70s. That would have been about the time that the fundamentalist LDS split off from the LDS church proper. And of course, that's why Safeway would have been able to hold on in Idaho for as long as it did. The simple aspect that, we still had an awful lot of LDS leadership in politics at the time. Yes. LDS leadership in politics, but yeah. Fundamentalist Latter-day Saints. Let's go ahead and discuss religious freedom. How do you feel about talking about religious freedom right now, Jason? The fundamentalist Latter-day Saints. Okay, so sometime back in the day, I'm not sure exactly when, the Latter-day Saints leadership, those are the Mormons. The Mormons went through certain capitulations to the state. They rendered unto Caesar, so that they could continue to maintain and participate in the larger economy, in the larger eco-socio-political system. Okay. They capitulated to the rules. Some of these rules was the church went ahead and outlawed polygamy and, a number of other things. A lot of people would look at this and go, well, that was a denial of freedom of religion. The state went in and said, no, you cannot practice the religion as preached by your prophets. They would be right. That didn't stop him, though. But that was one of the situations that caused the break off from the fundamentalist Latter-day Saints from the Latter-day Saints. The fundamentalists believed and wanted to adhere to the Doctrine and Covenants that was put forth by the original church elders, Joseph Smith, Brigham Young, and go forth and live according to the rules that were created under that, which is interesting because that made them outlaws. So they couldn't openly announce that they were living under the fundamentalist rules, because then they'd be arrested and thrown in prison for polygamy or a number of other situations. All of which, of course, is a violation of freedom of religion. Monogamy, as dictated by the state, is a violation of freedom of religion. Which is one of those reasons why an awful lot of people want to get the state completely out of the business of licensing individuals. So let's go ahead and talk about that issue. Reason why is because a polygamous situation is not a nuclear family. It's not. Yet there are a number of organizations, including the fundamentalist Latter-day Saints, that do believe and want to practice polygamy. And even though they don't do the marriage ceremonies, there are practicing polygamous couples, truples, quadruples. Anyway, there are practicing polygamous relationships here in the Treasure Valley. And these people are all very involved in what goes on with each other as well as each other's children. They're very in tune with what's going on. They understand what's going on with their education, where they're going to school, the things that happen with these children when they're involved in issues, their involvement in medicine, medication. And this goes back to one of the issues that's constantly raised by Black Lives Matter. And I don't understand why more religious organizations aren't involved in this process. The reason why is because right now, when you take a look at medical conditions, medical situations, grandma and grandpa can't make a medical decision for the kid, regardless of how much they know about the kid's condition or situation. Grandma and grandpa can't. Mom can. Dad can. Step parents can't. Foster parents can't. Foster parents actually have to go through Child Protective Services and health and welfare in order to get medical care for the children that they're fostering. Yeah. Small group in Yost, Utah. Right. Talk about the original mobile home, right? I mean, oh yeah, don't even get me into the welfare fraud. An organization based on religious freedom and independence from the state. I mean, these guys were literally your original, libertarians. Small L libertarians, LOLbertarians, or LOL. But the thing is once they understood how to game the system, they started gaming it. Of course, one of these was welfare fraud. And that's how your FLDS ended up with a basement full of groceries. You remember growing up with the Mormon jokes? All of the really bad racist Mormon jokes? Yeah, I'm not going to go there, Jason. The reason why is because Yeah, I'm not quite prepared to accept that level of. Yeah, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to take that kind of heat. Um, but yeah, it was welfare fraud, and they were using the money to go ahead and bring in groceries, and that's how they stockpiled their basements was welfare fraud. They would literally have 2 years worth of canned food goods, you know, sitting in a storm shelter somewhere. Of course, the houses were on skids, so they could move back and forth across the border and move out of one jurisdiction into another. Um, Hard to put a basement in a house like that, right? Um, but yeah, no, the fundamentalist LDS, they actually have a couple communes up in British Columbia because Canadians never got around to making polygamy illegal. So up in British Columbia, polygamy, there's quite a few polygamous communities up in British Columbia right now, just north of the Washington border. And a lot of those include a number of fundamentalist LDS communities. But yeah, welfare fraud. Yeah, well, the fundamentalist LDS weren't the only religious zealots that were committing welfare fraud. They weren't. You had the Freemans up in Montana. Thing they were Baptist or something. So there's a lot of religious zealots out there that are involved in, well, all sorts of government fraud. Literally go out and fake things in order to make things happen. But yeah. Okay. Honestly, I've been running an hour here. Appreciate everybody who joined up and participated. David, thank you. Jason, again, thank you. Brian, my brilliant son, I love you. Thanks again for the birthday call today. Happy birthday to me. Remember, folks, like, love, share, comment. Let your friends and neighbors know what's going on. Definitely start Googling me. There's a number of different articles out. My positions of my fellow candidates, Russ Fulcher, Rudy Soto. Be an informed voter, folks. Be an informed voter. You know what needs to happen in order for your life to be better. Only way you can do that is be informed. People over party, people over politics. Okay? Remember, family, friends, community. Together we can end socialism in America. Well, maybe not in our generation, but we state socialism. We can get rid of state socialism, right? Thank you, Frater. Appreciate it. Jason, again, thank you. And everybody have a good day.